guys, welcome to Academic English 1, Lesson 7. Today's video will cover the content that is in the PowerPoint slides, and then we will have our live lesson on Wednesday, April 22nd at 10:30 a.m. on Teams. Don't forget about it. And then after the live lesson, I will be available for a live chat in case you have any questions that come up as you continue looking through the work for the week. Just as a reminder, we have then again a lesson this week and then no lesson the week after, and then we continue after that. So let's get started over on Moodle. If you don't have Moodle open already, please make sure to pause the video and open Moodle so you can follow along, and then we can open up the PowerPoint slides and go through them together. So I want to review quickly what's on week 6, which was last week's lesson, April 8th. So here we had the video lecture, we had the PowerPoints, you have of course the textbook information, and then which I didn't upload extra the units from this week because everybody told me they have their textbook. So if you do not and you need me to take pictures and upload them, please let me know. We talked about text this last week, how to develop a paragraph, the topic, sentence, elaboration, example, analysis, and summary. And please make sure to review this example of text being applied to paragraphs in an academic essay. And then also some rules about using numbers in writing. And then some extra information about how to write thesis statements. And then we had the written assignments. We have, of course, 1 to 2 body paragraphs, which was due by Monday, April 20th by 8 a.m. And then the peer review, which was due by the end of the day on Wednesday, April 22nd, so that you will have a chance to ask questions in the live lesson first if you need, before you actually finish and provide the peer review to your partner or partners. And then the next one was the exercise here from the textbook that you needed to also submit by Wednesday, April 22nd before the lesson, 8 a.m. So moving on to today's lesson, week 7, April 22nd. We're going to be covering the introduction paragraph of your essay, as well as units 1.11 and 1.12. Of course, we have the PowerPoint, so if you don't have that open already, please do that. And then this thesis statement exercise we're going to do in the live lesson, so you're more than welcome to look at it in advance, but do know that we will be discussing it in the live lesson. And then, of course, the links to the 2 live options and then your 2 written assignments for this week are provided there. They are both basic assignments, so you upload either in the text, the body field, you upload there your introduction paragraph for your essay, and then if you've completed that, you can complete the progress check 1. It's just 3 exercises this time, but there is a 100-word summary that you are asked to write. So please take your time to write that as well as you can, and that will give me a good chunk of writing to edit and correct for you so that we can find where some of your writing errors are your common mistakes and errors. Okay, on to today's PowerPoint slides. Let's view from the beginning. So today is week 7. This is going to be on April 22nd when we meet live, and then we will have no lesson next week. So the next lesson, week 8, would be on May 6th. Just a reminder, I think this is already my 3rd reminder of this video, but 10:30 on Wednesday, April 22nd, we have our live lesson on Teams. The homework that you have due before the lesson this Wednesday is to complete both writing assignments by the deadlines. I've sent you an announcement late on Sunday evening because I noticed nobody had yet uploaded their assignment, and I didn't see any emails that people were having trouble. And I'm wondering whether you guys thought the deadline for the peer review, which was on Wednesday the 22nd, was the deadline to upload your actual paragraphs. So I'm curious to see whether you guys actually managed to upload your paragraphs on time or not, but we will have to take a look at that. I am not sure whether I can provide feedback on it if you don't meet the original deadline. I will have to see how the week develops, but it will give you, of course, the participation credits, even if you are after the deadline, as long as it is done this week. And then you needed also to read and revise the units 1.11 and 1.12 in your textbook. So 1.11 covers introductions and conclusions. Just a few points over here on the right side. You can see A good introduction is one that explains the purpose, the scope, and the methodology of the paper, so that the reader is clear by the end of the introduction what they're basically getting themselves into by reading your paper. The conclusion will provide answers to any questions. I'm sorry, I will edit this PowerPoint. I realize that I wrote answers to any answers, which is quite silly. Answers to any questions raised, so in either the title or the introduction, as well as in the body paragraphs. And it will also summarize the main discussion points, and it'll make recommendations or suggestions if it's appropriate to do so. Make sure not to include any new data or information in your conclusion for the first time. So if you're making recommendations or suggestions, for example, if it's an argumentative essay and you are suggesting that a change be made to current law, that's already going to be argued throughout the essay, throughout your arguments. But then a concrete suggestion at the end in the conclusion that is a bit more advanced, because you've had the chance to argue each of your points and you can tie it all together in your conclusion, that is appropriate. However, entering new data or new points that you did not touch on in your essay, that is not a good idea. The conclusion is supposed to summarize and solidify the ideas that were brought up in the essay, not raise new questions and new points that were not addressed in the paper. The introduction. It should start with an interesting, attention-getting introductory statement that sets the tone of your paper, and we will look at introductory statements in a moment. You want to make sure that if there are any key terms that you define them. You don't want to make your introduction, you don't want to turn it into a dictionary of terms. However, if there are really key terms that need to be defined in the beginning of your essay, in order to understand the following paragraphs, make sure that you do so and try to be as succinct and clear as possible when you're doing that. Point 3 is to provide any relevant, again a typo, sorry about that guys, I will fix that. Provide any relevant and vital background information, but stick to the key points only. You don't want to go on excessively providing background history or information in your introduction, because then the main points will get a bit convoluted and it will just be unclear, and you won't be able to make sense of the main points anymore if you provide too much information. But we do need to make sure that there is some context. So any really important, again, vital information, that background information that needs to be included, try to include that in there so that the information is not confusing as the reader is just getting started with your essay. If they're already confused in the beginning, they're certainly going to be confused later on. Point 4 here is to make the purpose or aim of your paper clear. You want to make sure that the goal of your paper is clear right from the get-go. So think about all those times I've written on the whiteboard the question, so what? Question mark. So why am I reading this paper? What is the point of this? Make that really clear already in your introduction. Make sure that you include research methods or the scope of the paper so that it's clear what the main idea is. Of course, for Academic English 1, you will have done hopefully at least some form of research in order to decide for your company, your startup, or for your project idea what were the aims, what were the goals, what were the objectives, and why you decided to do that. That should be clear in your introduction. You don't have to go on excessively explaining these things, but a quick sentence or two max to cover these points, that is important. The next one is to provide an outline of your paper focusing on the main points. Preferably, this is integrated into your one-sentence thesis statement. A really strong thesis statement will be able to provide kind of an overview of those main points that you are discussing in your paper or clarifying in your paper. If you can manage to do that within just the thesis statement alone, that is ideal. And then your final sentence of your introduction should be your thesis statement. And please note that you do not need to underline, italicize, bold, or otherwise label your thesis statement. You do not need to write the thesis statement of this essay is. You just write your thesis statement, and it's strong enough to stand on its own, and it's clear that that is the thesis statement of the introduction because of the strength in its writing. I would like for you guys now to turn to page 79 in your textbooks. We're going to look at exercise 3, opening sentences. normally the structure that you will follow for an opening sentence or attention getter would be to have some form of a time phrase so that people know which span of time they're looking at. And then you introduce your topic, and then you develop it a little bit further. That can be seen in the example below. Before 1950, time phrase, antibiotic drugs, topic, were not widely available, development. You develop the topic after you've introduced the time phrase. So we want to make sure the time phrase is really clear, and that the topic is also clear, and then that you develop it in a way that makes sense for your paper. I would like to note, see that below I have a comment on the left side to prepare introductory sentences for the titles A through D, which are on page 80. Be ready to share and discuss in the live lesson. So take a look at those titles there, or questions, research questions, and think of this structure, the time phrase, the topic, and development, and look at the other two examples that are on page 79 and prepare some introductory sentences for those titles, and A, B, C, and D on page 80, and we will discuss those in the live lesson. So please be ready to copy and paste your answers into the group chat, and then we will compare to each other and discuss that. On the right, I have an example of a poor introductory statement and of a strong one. The poor one: nowadays there is a lot of competition among different news providers. So nowadays in and of itself is informal and vague. A lot is also informal and vague. And then among different news providers is also, it's such a broad general statement here, and we don't really know what they're getting at after we've read this introductory statement, and we would need a lot of clarification. So we're already getting off on a bad foot if that's our very first sentence of our essay. So let's take a look at a better example below that. In the last 20 years, newspapers have faced strong competition from the internet for news and entertainment. So here we have a clear time frame, the last 20 years, and then the topic, newspapers, and then the development is that they have faced strong competition from the internet in order to be the provider of news and entertainment. So you see that number 2 is really a lot clearer and stronger than number 1 is, or the green check is a lot clearer and stronger than the red X. So that's just an overview of some highlights from Unit 1.11. You are expected to read all of the exercises yourself, and to make sure to, when you have any confusion, sorry guys, I'm just going to pause this and continue on. Okay, so that it's just important to remember that you are expected to read these units in their entirety, and then when you find one a little bit interesting or confusing and you want to try to learn a little bit more, do the exercise and check your answers in the back of the book. And then when you have questions, or if you want to try to see if you're getting the hang of it, then you can submit in one of your written assignments, depending what, usually we have one that's essay focused, essay based, sorry, I just almost created a new word, and then we have one that is based on the textbook. So make sure to include it in your exercise for that week that's based on the textbook. So you may, on some weeks, you may submit 2 or 3 exercises instead of the one required one, and that's not, by any means, you're not asked to do that as a mandatory assignment, but it is something that you can do if you are looking to get some feedback or you're struggling with a topic. Okay, so we're going to look at Unit 1.12, Rewriting and Proofreading, and I wanted to point out exercise 5 on pages 84 and 85. These are common mistakes that students make in papers. So you will see here in point 1, getting facts wrong when facts are not factual. So number 1, corruption is a problem in many countries such as Africa. So the problem here is that Africa is not a country, it is a continent. So you could say corruption is a problem on many continents, such as the continent Africa, but that's a bit strange because continents are so vast. So here we would probably choose an African nation instead For example, corruption is a problem in many countries, such as, and then enter your country. That can also be for Europe or for North America or for Asia, etc. But just a common problem is that many people unfortunately believe Africa is a country rather than a continent, and that is a common mistake. And just because it's a common mistake, it doesn't make it any more factual or acceptable. You want to make sure that you're very clear, especially with facts and these basic things in your writing when you're submitting an academic essay. Okay, so you'll see in points 2 through 10 that there are other errors in word ending, punctuation, tense, vocabulary, spelling, singular or plural, style, missing word, and word order. So pause the video and go look through these, and then I will just read out and explain the answers in a moment. Okay, number 2, word ending. Innocence should be innocent, so it's not the noun here. She was young and innocent because it's an adjective describing how she is rather than the noun. Number 3, what is the optimum size for a research team is a question. So the punctuation mark shouldn't be a period or full stop. It should be a question mark. I wish that they had given an example of a comma mistake, because students most often, in my experience, make mistakes with commas. Either they use too many or they use them inappropriately, such as with a comma splice. So be mindful of your commas. Tense. Since 2005, there were 3 major earthquakes in the region. So this is simple past, and since we have the word since, then we know that it's saying from a certain point to a certain point. So it's not the simple present or simple past where it's a habitual thing. It is really saying a certain time frame. So we want to use the perfect tense here, the present perfect. Since 2005, there have been blah, 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 blah. Okay, the next one is vocabulary based. Flexibility is vital to the successfulness of a company. Successfulness is not a word, so success would be the word here. Just because something sounds or feels like a word doesn't mean it's a word. Spelling is the next one. The very first word there, previous, the R should be before the E, not after the E. In singular versus plural, it is one of the largest companies in Asia. So it should be companies with ANIES at the end, the plural. If you said, so we know that this needs to be plural because it says one of. That means that there are multiple, or there is more than one. If we wanted to say it is the largest company in Asia, the only one, sure, but it's not the only one, so companies. Next one is style. Finally, the essay will conclude with a conclusion. So we have both conclude and we have conclusion, and we also have finally in there, which is pretty close to synonymous with the conclude and conclusion here. So it's just too repetitive, and we want to make sure that we do not include within the same sentence the same word or similar words, or within the same paragraph that we have 3 or 4 times the same word. It's just too much. The English vocabulary is so rich and varied, so make sure that you make use of that. And then missing word. This is an idea established by David Ricardo in the 19th century. So definite and indefinite article is a common mistake many students make. If you know you struggle with that, let me know and I can provide you with some nice grammar exercises to help you. And the last one is word order, another common mistake. 3 skills are needed. Oh, sorry, my brain corrected it as I was saying it. So the wrong version is 3 skills are for needed success in the academic world. And the correct version is 3 skills are needed for success in the academic world. Okay, good. I hope this has been helpful. The writing homework for the next lesson, you have to write an introduction paragraph for your essay and upload it on Moodle before May 6th, or by 8 a.m. on May 6th. Now, the introduction, this is just to get you started while the information is still fresh in your head, and so that you have something to work off of. You will probably go back and rewrite your introduction as you're further along in the writing process, which is definitely okay and actually recommended. So we will circle back to it later in the semester as we touch back upon the introductions and conclusion portion of the textbook. And then writing assignment number 2, complete progress check 1 from the textbook and submit your answers on Moodle. Okay, so make sure you complete both of those writing assignments and then go ahead and read units 2.1 and 2.5 in your textbook. And remember to always keep calm and continue working on your essay so it doesn't all come up at once at the end of the semester. And our next lesson will be on May 6th, Wednesday, May 6th. So, want to just pull up again as a reminder here. We have the PowerPoints, the video lecture will appear here. We will do the thesis statement exercise in class. We have the live lesson and live chat and the 2 written assignments. So, I just want to conclude this lesson by saying that I'm definitely missing seeing you guys in person, and during the live lesson, please, I really appreciate if you make sure that your camera and microphone are both on and working. It is difficult to have a live lesson and to really communicate with you if that is turned off. So please make sure the video and the microphones are working for Wednesday for our lesson, and come prepared to the lesson so we can get the most out of it. And I will update then again later this week the attendance Excel sheet as well, participation attendance. And it is a requirement to submit your 2 written assignments by the deadlines, and then also to participate in the live lesson each week. And by the end of it, I will give you guys some kind of makeup assignments if you haven't achieved the minimum of what is needed. However, if you do not complete those, or you're just way too far off and not even close to the required attendance and participation, then we may have a bit of trouble. So if you think that you're falling into that area, make sure to contact me sooner than later. We are now past the halfway mark of this course. We are in lesson 7, so it's getting a bit late to catch up at this point if we're not staying on track. So make sure to try to stay on track as much as possible, and please reach out to me if you're having any trouble. I'm more than happy to try to help. Okay guys, I'm looking forward to seeing you on Wednesday. Take care, stay safe, stay home. Bye!